You might as well be naked. Not sure how I feel about you laughing at me in your exhibitionist getup. Exhibitionist. Nonsense! To unleash the most power, this is the form a Kamui must take! You cling to the puritanical views of the masses, proving just how inferior you are! But I won't be ashamed. If it means I can fulfill my ambitions, I will bare my breast for all to see! I will do whatever it takes! For I know that my actions are utterly pure!
This was the moment I knew I was in love. Reading those subs, hearing Satsuki's resolve and the contradiction of the world. She never allowed herself to harbor any fear of the opinions of the puritanical masses, never allowed their thoughts to dissuade her from her ultimate goals.
If something really mind-blowing takes shape, then it's fascinating. Usually, if an ordinary person thinks, no way, then they won't do it. Doing it anyway, now that's what makes it fascinating. So when people say, no way, they have an opposing idea of how it should be done. We're actually saying the opposite of what these people seriously think. That's where you'll find the answer. It's the things you shouldn't do then and there. Things that would go against the flow. Things that you shouldn't say.
Fear is freedom. Subjugation is liberation. Contradiction is truth. This anime is the perfect litmus test to see who can look past the surface level of such an anime, and not fall for its preconceptions, go beyond just to judge it honestly. A lot of people take one look at KillLaKill and say, it's not that deep, or there's no real plot. They instantly dismiss the validity of the production as anything other than being dumb parody. To those people who say, no way, there's nothing of value in KillLaKill outside of hot anime girls, I say, the fact that society's values shame you only shows how small-minded you are. Today, I want to talk about one of my favorite characters from one of my favorite anime, Satsuki Kiryuuin. We will be discussing how her life's ambitions left her in the special OVA episode 25, so this video will contain spoilers for the whole show. Because of this, there will be some discussion on heavy topics, such as SA, depression, and SIB. If these topics are something you're not comfortable with, that's okay. Feel free to watch anything else. Now that we got that sorted, let's go. Episode 25 of KillLaKill is probably one of my favorite OVAs to a series ever. It takes place 2 weeks after the final battle. Everyone is together. Ryuko, Mako, Satsuki, the Elite Four, and even Mikisugi are all here for one last hurrah as they graduate. Satsuki, the incredible woman that she is, arranged for the transfers of the entire student body, as well as the relocation of every family that lived in Hono Town, and establishing the careers of her Elite Four and all her club presidents beyond Hanoji, both in the workforce and universities that accommodate their goals individually. It is hinted that all these arrangements were planned ahead of the failed sports festival.
My god, she thought of everything.
We'll put a pin in this for later, because there's something glaringly wrong with Our Lady Satsuki. Sanagayama, of course, sees it first during their duel. So glaring, in fact, you don't even need his Shingatsu or Tengatsu to see it. Even Mako, of all people, points out these two things. Satsuki's heel isn't clicking, rather her feet are bare, and Satsuki's light is no longer shining. This is alarming to everyone. As we progress through the episode, we see how deep Satsuki's chains runs, and we get some insight of what's been tormenting Satsuki, as the plot quite literally plays it out for us. The past has come back to haunt the Elite Four, and Satsuki herself. Except, her shadow self wasn't sent to end Satsuki. Not yet, that is. She gives herself up willingly at such a golden opportunity. And here's where we learn the truth of what happened to Satsuki's resolve.
No life deserves to be taken. Hypocrite! Lady Ragyo and Nui's blood is on your hands! If I have wronged you, I will atone with my life. Is that why you gave yourself up to me so easily? That is one way to sheathe one's blade.
And when Rei refuses to fulfill Satsuki's wish and instead uses her to power the Academy's leftover last resort weapon, the husk that is Satsuki threatens, no, offers just to kill herself right there. If not for Mako also being taken as a failsafe, she probably would have. If not for Rei's plans, she might have anyway, in 1 month's time, once she finished tying up all the loose ends of Hanoji. Why is the great Satsuki Kiryuuin like this? Yes, we see her and everyone's past has come back to haunt them, but it's different for her. So much different.
Hold your horses! I figured this out a while ago! The Ryuko inside my head can't hold a candle to the one outside my head! That Ryuko's more amazing! And I bet it's the same with the Elite Four, too! And now Elites are
I need you to follow with me this Mako line of thinking for a second, because this is the analogy Mako shares that acts as a catalyst for Ryuko and the Elite Four to defeat their shadows. War begets scars, and these shadows are the scars their reign left upon the No-Star masses in the end. Even if their goals were noble, they created an environment of fear and oppression, a dictatorship under their fearless leader, and they tried to build their path to victory on the bodies of others. But they were wrong. They grew past their mistakes, and they were no longer those people, and won. They evolved beyond what the life fibers, what Ragyo wanted of them and the human race. And because of this, they easily defeat the physical manifestation of their past, so they can move into the future, change for the better, together. A good, retrospective, final goodbye ending for everyone. Everyone except Satsuki Kiryuuin.
If anything, I hoped you could live free of Ragyo's curse. Nothing more.
Everyone has their own battles to face, and you can assemble a team, an army even, to help you in those battles. Satsuki did this, achieved her ultimate goal, and lived to tell the tale. But not everything is sugar and rainbows just because you won. The life fiber war is over, but Satsuki's battle still rages. And as seen in this OVA, Satsuki's battle is different compared to her friends. What Satsuki's shadow tells Ryuko is telling to what that battle is.
Who the hell are you guys? What'd you do with the real Satsuki?
I am the real Satsuki. A woman with a broken heart and without purpose is of no use to this world.
The subs for the original dub tells us a Kiryuuin who has lost her spirit has no business to exist. Both of these readings give us a deeper insight on the battle Satsuki is currently losing, what this depression she's fallen to stems from. If we use Rei's shadows as an on-the-nose allegory to what's haunting the cast, then it's notable to point out that Satsuki's shadow also follows a different path compared to the others, as she easily subdues Satsuki herself and faces off instead with Ryuko, even being defeated by her instead of the siblings she originated from. Sanagayama was the first to point out that the Satsuki he was dueling, the one smiling gracefully and left the mat victorious, was as fleeting as a mirage, because her resolve was gone. And when you lose your resolve, as Satsuki herself once told Kamakori, you won't even have the strength to wipe away your own tears. If Satsuki's resolve, the fighting spirit that she had to keep going and put her life on the line to defeat Ragyo and the life fibers once and for all, died with the war, what we have left, as Satsuki's shadow pointed out, is a broken woman without purpose.
I wonder what Satsuki's gonna do, though.
She's looking for a way to hang up her sword for good. The one she spent all these years sharpening.
A surprisingly insightful statement, Ryuko. I suppose she realized at some point Bakuzan wasn't the only blade her sister had carried. And what was that blade exactly? For this, we'll need to go back. Go back to when Satsuki first picked up this blade.
But I was still too young to know what a wedding dress was, or what it implied.
Satsuki Kiryuuin was not like other children. Born to a brilliant scientist and a CEO of a massively influential textile conglomerate, one could say she was well-bred. So well-bred, in fact, that her mind at merely 5 years old was able to comprehend her father's secret plot against her mother's cult, and inhumane experiments performed on herself and her late younger sister.
My father said, Satsuki, this will be your wedding dress. But when you put it on, you'll become a slave to clothing.
Soichiro told this to young Satsuki. Satsuki believed in her father, having no reason not to, of course. But how does a child understand this kind of oppression expressed to her? It was after his apparent assassination that a young Satsuki would begin to truly understand the things her father had told her, finally understanding what oppression felt like, what it was to lose your bodily autonomy and be forced into a place of complete submission. Except Satsuki was not yet a slave to the life fibers, the clothing. Instead, it was her mother. It's when the matriarch of the Kiryuuin clan began her conditioning, that is when Satsuki began honing her blade, began her plot of rebellion. There's a notable scene early in the series where a child Satsuki speaks to an equally young Non-Non. Here, Satsuki is asked if she wants a sandcastle to be built for her by the boys of the playground. Satsuki refuses and tells her she doesn't need that sand. In fact, she has a small handful of her own, and that's all she needs. Non-Non is confused, because how is that enough to build a castle? Satsuki responds in kind, explaining.
Castles that crumble in gusts of wind are worthless. Don't you agree, Nono? Yeah, but sooner or later all buildings crumble. Not if you build them in your heart, they won't. The skyscrapers in my heart will never crumble. Ever.
This is the first instance where we see Satsuki developing her resolve, her unbreakable will, the only thing of merit inherited from that monster of a woman that is her mother. And so Satsuki begins sharpening that sword, but at 5 years old, there's only so much a child can do. The National Library of Medicine tells us there is a robust correlation between dissociative symptoms and the exposure to trauma, particularly early childhood trauma. This association can be defined as disconnections between thoughts, feelings, behaviors, sensations, and other mental processes that would normally be connected. And then continues. In the face of overwhelming traumatic experience, this association can offer a psychic escape when there is no physical escape. It is not uncommon for survivors to report experiencing themselves as being outside their body, i.e. depersonalization, during the assaults. So she had to lay in wait, to play the obedient daughter until she was strong enough, both militarily in the army she slowly built through the years, and when she herself was strong enough to face her mother and cut off the head of the beast.
My resolve is what makes me different.
What do you mean?
Simple, Gamagori. Without resolve, you wouldn't even have the strength to wipe away your own tears.
And she kept sharpening that resolve for 13 years until that fateful day her meticulous plans came into fruition. But what is a human to a monster? An army to a goddess? What happens when the beast won't die? That won't stop Satsuki Kiryuuin. Nothing stops Satsuki Kiryuuin. Because she knows how to cope in the face of perceived defeat, especially in the face of her mother. When we see Satsuki again after the sports festival, she's bound, disarmed, and locked up in something very much resembling a birdcage. And this is the point in which I must come clean before I continue. If you couldn't tell by my personal screen name alone, I'm quite the Revolutionary Girl Utena fan. It's my absolute favorite anime. It's been so important to me in my growth as a person that it shaped the very way I viewed the world. Not to borrow a line from Satsuki for a moment, but I was 5 years old when I first was introduced to Revolutionary Girl Utena, and it changed my brain chemistry. And ever since, in my mind and all my lives, all my roads of interest lead back to Utena. And KillLaKill is no exception to this. In fact, I would go so far to say my absolute love for KillLaKill is only amplified by this. I have a soft spot for exaggerated, avant-garde, earnest storytelling, so I feel right at home with the visual allegory KillLaKill utilizes to support its dense storytelling. This is my long-winded way of saying there will be spoilers ahead for Revolutionary Girl Utena. I needed to get this out of the way because when we see Satsuki here, stuck in a birdcage, bound and chained by her mother, I see how Akio Otori kept his sister, Auntie Himemiya, in her birdcage of the flower garden. Two women bound in cages with different personal contexts, both abused by the established authority in their lives, the hierarchy, the laws of the world, to be relegated as only brides in which they are enslaved to their role, enslaved to their garment, enslaved to the life fibers. This is where Auntie and Satsuki differ, of course, as Satsuki only pretended to stay in her role, her weapon of unbreakable resolve never being taken from her, allowing her to pursue her ambitions, even down to how she chose to wear junkets. When Satsuki, out of sheer force of will, wrestles junkets into submission as her garment, it takes a very similar form as Ryuko and Senketsu, where, if you follow my line of thinking for a moment here, they stand as an outlier amongst the Kamui transformations we've seen. If we take into account how Ryuko and Senketsu were literally made for each other, symbiotic in their relationship, the form they take in this narrative represents unity and equality. They do become as one, like their leitmotif implies. This is the difference between life fiber synchronize and life fiber override. When Ryuko is forced into wearing junkets, Ragyo's designed wedding dress, Ryuko suffers the same conditioning Satsuki had to bear, with false images projected into her mind of being loved and cared for by a doting mother in this horrendous moment. Ryuko, of no fault of her own, falls to the mind control and loses herself. I need you to take notice that when Ryuko is wearing junkets, this is the most we've ever seen a Kamui cover someone's body outside of Satsuki's first time wearing junkets, in which, when it covered her body, it was an attempt to physically crush her, to make her bow down, to kneel in submission. But as we see with the more concealing style of Ryuko and junkets, as well as later with Ragyo and junkets, and even more so with the Shinra kokets, which is a very obvious reference to a traditional Shinto wedding dress, all these instances, the Kamui cover far more of their host's body than Satsuki herself allows. It's also important to note here the repeated usage of wedding dresses. Before we even see the Shinra coquettes, the most blatant usage is junkets. Because until Ryuko is taken and forced into junkets, it only ever looked like a fancy sailor uniform. It's here during Satsuki's face-off with Ryuko, when she forcibly rips open her sealed chest plate to expose her breasts, her heart to the two people Ryuko loves the most. We get to see what junkets really looks like to whomever dons it correctly. And what we find is Ryuko at an altar, in a classic Western-style wedding dress. The world in her mind is bleak, the only color being the life fiber groom she stands obediently beside. Not even her own light. Her usually bright red life fiber strand of hair can shine here. When Mako and Senketsu break past the locked doors of the chapel, in direct parallel to them breaking into her closed chest plate, the flying handle knocks the life fiber dummy down. Why is it a dummy? And yet, she's still protecting what we see is a lie, a ploy. Ryuko, angry as all hell, looking worse for wear, threatens.
If you try to ruin my happiness, I'll straight up kill you!
You think this is happiness? Not even! Take a look around you, this isn't you!
And it's not. Ryuko had been brainwashed, sealed away into a role the real rebellious punk we know would never allow herself in. A bride is the position she was forced into, forced to conform and submit. The role she has been given to play, a thing to be consumed by and ruled over. She says this is her happiness, but seeing her face, looking into her eyes, it's not happiness. Her personhood has been taken. I must strongly emphasize here that it is no fault of Satsuki, Ryuko, or even Rei when it comes to the conditioning they are exposed to through their mother in her attempts of domination and control over them. And I am not implying inherent weakness or objective failures on their part. Yes, Ryuko had fallen to Ragyo's influence, as have many. The seduction of her words, of care and love after experiencing the extreme trauma of her own heart being ripped out of her chest and then told her entire existence had been a lie? That the same evil she was fighting against was stitched into her very being? The lyric in Ragyo's theme song helps us paint a clearer picture. Her own leitmotif always precedes her monstrous acts, her inhumanity when she enters a scene. The world is cruel. It's sad but true. The world is strange. It's questionable but true. Is the flower garden real or fake? It is advisable to remove wilted flowers. Yes, I am much stronger than I ever thought. I removed the wilted flowers. Why do you look so sad? No matter how tough you are, fly higher, run faster, you are very strong. Binding flower wreaths, why do you look so sad? There's lots of words of flowers, of freedom, to become stronger. Yes, the world is cruel. I'll help you, your flower, grow stronger. Don't worry about how strange everything seems now that you've learned the truth of the world. I'll help you remove your wilting flowers. I'll help you purify your garden. Don't be sad. You're so much stronger than you think. You're not like other girls. I'll help you fly higher, run faster, and be stronger. Yes, bind your flowers into a wreath, no longer wild and free. Why do you look so sad? The world is cruel and strange. And those that are broken are desperately seeking something to make sense of everything, to ease the pain and give them something to follow. And due to this, the process of being strung up and bound like a wreath will feel so good. But Satsuki Kiryuuin isn't like other people. When she was 5 years old, she learned the truth.
For years I've waited for this day, pretending to obey you. Fear is freedom. Subjugation is liberation. Contradiction is truth. Those are the facts of this world. And you will surrender to them, you pig who fawns over clothing!
This is what Satsuki lived by, her modus operandi. Knowing true fear, understanding and facing it will lead you to freedom. In her subjugation, she plotted not only her own, but the world's liberation. Contradiction to anything Ragyo preached, contradiction to what her own fascist masquerade demanded to appease her mother, is the truth. This is her weapon, her unbreakable will, her fighting spirit forged. The secret sword, Bakuzan. Baku, to tie or to bind. Zan, to forcibly cut or behead. Even if the sword was taken from her hands, Ragyo couldn't take away her resolve. She kept it close and continued to sharpen it within her cage, and she used what little of that piece she had to break out of her chains. This is how she would break herself free from the Kiryuuin curse, from the life fibers. This is how she was able to help free Ryuko from the shackles of Junkets. When that blade was broken into two, she still had the resolve to pick it back up again.
It is my resolve. It is my vengeance. Even if it's been smashed to pieces, as long as one sliver remains, it can be remade.
The Force opened the cage over her sister's heart to save her from the grasp of their mother, and from despair. Because she knew what it was like resisting it alone, how she herself had to grit her teeth every time she wore Junkets. And by doing this, gave Ryuko the resolve to literally tear herself free from the captivity of Junkets and its false purity as defined by their mother. And so they kept sharpening that blade, keeping their resolve, until they liberate the world from the hell Ragyo and her life fibers created. But what is it like when you dedicate the last 13 years of your life to a single cause, and you finally accomplish it? When the celebrations are over and done and the relief is gone, do you just go back to what, exactly? In a 2017 iHeartRadio interview with Paramore, the interviewer asked about the meaning behind the title of their fifth studio album, After Laughter. The band's lead tells us simply, it means that look on a person's face when they laugh really hard, and then there's this moment where they come back to reality. That is the moment we find Satsuki in at the very end of the series. The reality Satsuki had built around herself is being torn apart, brick by boring brick, by her own hands, and all according to plan. The weapon of a school that she built is going through her scheduled decommission. The student body that she trained as weapons of her war are being transferred out, with care and security, into the real world, the real Japan, so that they can live a peaceful life, free from the tyranny that she designed. Dutifully, she relocates the residents of Hono Town to new, well-suited places accommodating their needs, a recompense for the oppression orchestrated by none other than herself and her ambition. Satsuki spends her time after the war keeping herself busy by tying up the loose ends of her master plan and making amends to those caught in her crossfire. Where Satsuki once used her tower to escape her trauma, to escape her mother, we still see her in that tower now. The front wall is completely blown out. The beast had been slain, yet here she is, still sipping her tea in the rubble of her safe place. Nothing is keeping her there, all alone if not for Soroi. And she dismisses him at his urging for her to join her peers, her Elite Four, her friends. Satsuki smiles gracefully and thanks him for being there for her all these years. If not for him, she wouldn't have been able to make it. And it sounds an awful lot like a goodbye. It's only after he leaves, when she's alone, that Satsuki's shadow appears, and she's ready for it, to finish the job. Ready for Rei to do what she needs to do. Because Satsuki Kiryuuin doesn't know how to let go of a sword that's out of her hands. She doesn't know how to let go of something that's already gone. Bakuzan was destroyed in that final battle against Ragyo and Shinra Koketsu. Just because the monster is dead, doesn't mean the wounds left behind don't hurt.
A woman with a broken heart and without purpose is of no use to this world.
She, her shadow, says. A Kiryuuin who has lost her spirit has no business to exist.
Incomprehensible things. There are many things you just can't wrap your head around, but you can still understand in your heart. That's how she's feeling deep down inside. That's what she thought. That's what she's thinking. Things that can't be described in words, that there are no words for, full of those kinds of indescribable emotions. That's KillLaKill.
Ryuko Matoi isn't the brightest at Honnouji Academy, but at times she's surprisingly insightful and as loyal as they come. And she recognized where Satsuki had been coming up short since the defeat of their mother. The same way Satsuki understood the domination of both Ragyo and Junkets that Ryuko fell to, Ryuko in turn recognized and understood the despair that Satsuki had been experiencing. And because of this, she was able to recognize Satsuki's attempt at hanging up her blade. But she couldn't figure out how to help. Just not yet, at least. It's when Ryuko is falling amongst the rubble from Rei's final attack. Ryuko is reminded of what Senketsu taught her, of what they all fought for. The war is over and no one else needs to die.
Everyone's gotta move on from their sailor uniform sometime! It's not easy for some, because they hang on to all the memories they had wearing it! Well, I'm gonna give everyone who's still dwelling in the past a clean break from it! I got the power to make them move on! Don't I?
And there's another thing that Ryuko recognizes, and it's Rei's desperation and pain, knowing exactly what it feels like when your blood is at that boiling point, burning off great loss. This leads her to exactly what both her sister and Rei need to hear.
You listening, Ho'omaru? Ragyo Kiryuuin is gone. Let go of the past already. This is your Honochi Academies and our graduation from Ragyo!
And this triggers something in Satsuki. Enough to look up, past the shadows covering her vision. When you lose your once unbreakable will, and you're still in the dark, sometimes borrowing the light of others is enough. Like how a moon borrows its light, you can be a beacon to others suffering the same darkness. And there's no easy answer here because healing isn't easy. It's not done overnight. Sometimes it takes months, years even. It's a daily struggle. Satsuki Kiryuuin isn't invincible. When she's cut, she bleeds. She needs the support of her friends, her family, to help her when she loses her way.
I don't know what kind of horrors you've seen, or what you've really lost. But that is precisely why someone like you is so important.
Satsuki doesn't diminish Rei's convictions or invalidate her personal suffering. She doesn't override her lived experience to belittle and disarm her, or try to overpower her into submission. Instead, she extends her hand to her, welcoming her, understanding her. Satsuki shares her new vision for the world, and gives her a choice, instead of exploiting Rei's pain, kissing away her tears, and forcing her vision on her. She's not trying to remove her wilted flowers with false promises, to manipulate her and bind her, the way Ragyo did.
And I will need your help to do that. If the day ever comes when you find something I've done or said objectionable, you may kill me. I will forfeit my life to you gladly.
You're crazy. How can you spout such nonsense?
She's inviting her to help build a more peaceful society that celebrates individuality in all of its forms, instead of forcing people to be cut from the same cloth, and puts her own life into her hands. Because she knows how dangerous having power can be, how delicate the role of leading someone is, and to never let anyone else feel powerless again. Satsuki wasn't healed from the hardships of the past that she endured, or the scars that resulted from it. Her and Rei are the same in that regard, but she can instead be her purpose for the future. They both can. That person Satsuki used to be, that original purpose she built her existence around, was long gone. She needed to graduate, to sever what that string of fate had intended of her, of them. You can't wear your sailor uniform forever. You grow out of it, but that doesn't mean it never happened, that you didn't wear it. As alumni of our past, a new dawn comes, and we keep moving forward. If you made it to the end, thank you. Creative media has always been something I found myself looking towards. It's something I live vicariously through to remind myself of certain truths. It's been something so vital and important to my person that when I attach to something and it speaks to me, it becomes a part of me, body and soul. So, here we are. Welcome to my channel. Here, I'll be rambling about things I love and try to play with the sense of meaning it gives to me. It helps make everything feel like it has a purpose. Because not all is lost. We don't think like that. We'll make the impossible possible, together. And maybe I'll see you in the next one.